summer holidays were about expectation of freedom from rules, from school discipline, from going to bed on time, eating the same boring regular food. Plus there'll be more nature, because growing up in the city you didn't get much nature. You were always asked to stay away from nature because it will either bite you or sting you or make you dirty or keep you away from schoolwork. But in summer holidays you could do all of that. Thinking back, when you miss those times, you miss everything, including the pressure of homework and schoolwork and stuff like that. All of that is exciting now, because what you're actually missing is your younger self. You're missing youth and you're missing childhood. It's more of an idea than a reality, which is why when you actually go on summer holiday in the present, it's always disappointing, because you expect so much and eventually it doesn't seem so exciting. It's only exciting when your iPhone shows you an array of pictures and say, wow, see what a beautiful summer day, what lovely light, what is it that we were eating on that day, who was saying what to whom, why did someone get upset, didn't we have a great game of Scrabbles? So that's the way you think about it. So it's always more exciting when you're thinking about it from far away. So summer holidays are a great idea. I think once upon a time the idea was that holidays were all about the urban blue-collared and white-collared workers. I won't even say urban working classes, because urban working classes on their holidays, the times when they were not working, they would be visiting what people call, within quotes, their native place. And you went to your native place, essentially a place located in the non-urban or the rural area, and there you would visit your family and you'll visit your land, and maybe you collect rents, or you are a landlord over there and you're somebody else, and so you use the time of holidays to reconnect back to the places that you have left behind. So you were not going so much for leisure, but connecting with family. You have to maintain your familial network. So I guess that's how working classes would spend time when they were on holiday, when they didn't have to go to work, or their children primarily had school holidays. people like roads. People in our country really like roads. Because they're always wanting to go somewhere from wherever they are. I think in some ways roads symbolize, however real or unreal, the roads symbolize that they can travel out of their situation. So they signal prosperity in that sense. They signal change. They signal opportunity. But are roads built for that purpose? Are roads really built to cater to individuals? The small farming family's aspiration to travel to a big city or send their children out to go to schools or universities or to work. Is that why roads are built? Roads create access. It makes you feel that you're part of a bigger story and you're not on your own somewhere. Roads, however, do other things also. I mean, when you build very large highways which cut across, we are very much in the tropics, and we have a large number of it affects biodiversity, it affects flora, it affects fauna, it affects tiger corridors, it affects the migratory routes of birds, it affects elephant corridors. It also affects many people's livelihoods, because when large roads in effect encroaches upon natural landscape, about which we still perhaps don't know enough to compensate for or recreate when we lose something. So let's say a patch of natural forest is lost. No matter how many poplars we plant, we cannot replace it. And very large roads often are insensitive or indifferent to such kinds of losses, because we have this confidence that if only we can go from place A to place B, we can recreate everything that we have lost. And sometimes it's just not possible to recreate, because we have lived very interconnected lives with our environment, most people in our country. You build a road through it, and large parts of landscape and biodiversity and so on would be forgotten. People may remember it, but they won't remember exactly how to recreate it. It's not a photograph inside people's heads. So there's this interesting hills and plains kind of stereotypes on both sides that continue till this day. As people who have lived in the mountains, they feel that they are somehow also responsible for protecting it, and they're very proud of that culture. Hill cultures also distinguish from plains cultures, and they would like to believe that culturally they are. Although plain society may have seen them in the past as people who are agriculturally inferior or culturally different, they would like to believe that they are culturally superior. They are more honest, and they would like to less corrupt and so on. And people from the mountains do feel that they have been not treated very well by people from the plains, who come there to enjoy all the beauties and all the wealth of the mountains, but they don't necessarily give back anything. In a similar way, people in the mountains would like to lead a simpler and easier life, and be more prosperous. At the same time, they don't want to, change they are afraid that they are going to lose their culture if they do that too much. So there's this interesting equation that happens, and people are very conscious today about these distinctive identity. They want to change, at the same time they want to stay the same. very long time, upper classes have sent their children to study in boarding schools in the mountains, but villages in the mountains may not have had good schools where they could send their children, so they would have to send them to the plains. So it's that such ironies and paradoxes are very much present. Quite a lot of communities, I think, even in agricultural societies, the ones who have been urbanized for a very long time, or who have been in the non-industrial, urban, professional classes, and for them, and whose children have been going to school for 2 or 3 generations, they would have a very distinct phase of a summer holiday associated with school vacations, for example, and then they could either choose to go back to, mostly people would either go back to their native place to meet up with their family and friends, but they would also want to experience leisure and use it as an opportunity to maybe demonstrate to their friends and neighbors and family that they have the capacity to experience leisure. They have the capacity to spend a part of their earnings on experiencing the world when they're going to not be working. So the idea of a holiday then would be to not work. The idea of the holiday would be to maybe sit and observe. Planned holidays, like tourism, really lends itself to a lot of consumption in which you consume all kinds of things. So it could be a place, including nature. It could be food, different kinds of food. It could be just an experience. It could be even, basically it could be anything that is out of the ordinary, that enables you to distinguish between a boundary between your regular, ordinary, routine life and something that is out of it. Clothes that you wear, resort fashion, or you go to holiday and stay in resorts and you want to be like people who work in the film industry and you want to dress like them. So a special kind of dressing to distinguish between your ordinary lives and the fact that you're a member of the leisure class. All of this also lends itself to the packaging of leisure industry. So you may want to visit a 18th century shrine, but everything there, the experience there will be curated for you. So there could be special clothes that you wear. There could be like special hotels where you stay. They might give you special kind of vegetarian food over there. Similarly, if you're into adventure sports or something, they will curate that experience for you. You can take your entire family, including 3-4 generations, and go for a special holiday where the objective is simply to just meet and chat and catch up. But you no longer do it in your rural or ancestral homes. You just do it in a tourist destination. The summer actually characterizes the core of nature. It's not a time of destruction or dryness or emptiness. It is actually also a time of regeneration. In farms, the land is dry, and that's when all the bugs die, and land gets prepared by farmers. And trees are very green. All the deciduous trees are very green, and they look resplendent, and they're full of birds if you care to look for it. But yes, nowadays it's also, summer is all about air conditioning systems. So there are cars with air conditioning, there are flats with air conditioning, the small little shops with air conditioning. It's unavoidable, and the air conditioning system itself creates its own sort of ecosystem. I think human beings are part of the natural environment, and there is no other way to look at it like that. So whenever we say that we are going to say something about the state of the environment, we act as though we are outside of it, and we are in a particular pole position or a central or a superior position with which we can reflect on the environment. But the problem is, it will always be a partial description. It will also be an interested description, because we can only contemplate nature from the point of view of what it means to us. And we never really write ourselves into the story. We have to talk about it as though we are outside. But since we are not outside, it is always an incomplete story. So let's say we are outside and we are looking at nature as tourists and people from somewhere else, and who are seeing parts of the natural, what we consider as natural environment, as against the built environment, and we are reflecting upon it. So we come across trees, we are able to recognize it, some of it because we know, and some of it because of Google. And we say that, okay, all these trees are here. And then we have conversations with local people, and they tell us a little bit more about their natural environment. We fit it all together and we say that, okay, we are seeing here parts of nature that have obviously been manipulated by human beings. It has been changed by human beings. Once upon a time, there were no fruit orchards here. And when there were no fruit orchards here, maybe there was more pristine or indigenous forests. We can think about it like that. And human beings who lived here back then, and their relationship with those pristine forests would have been different. Their lives would have been different. The forests would have been different. And there would have been probably no tourists looking at it from the outside. But when we enter into the story, it has already been changed. So now you have fruit orchards which have been planted. And for us, that is natural, because these are fruit trees. They've been growing there for a very long time. We have become concerned about their sustainability or their existence. So, for example, where we were staying, right next doors, there was an old-fashioned farm with an old-fashioned house and a clutch of peach trees and plum trees. People were talking about drought and the fact that it hadn't rained for 6 months. And every day in the morning, we could see one single member of the family, a woman of young to middle age. She would be making many trips, and sometimes men also made several trips with buckets of water filled from somewhere, with which they were watering the peach trees. And so if we were to ask them, why are you doing this, they would say that, this is the time when the fruit ripens, and if we don't water it now, the fruit won't ripen, and then we would not be able to pluck them and pack them and sell them. So it is our livelihood, and because of which we have to keep the trees alive. But the fact that they were doing this, bringing water, using human labor and watering the plants, also meant that the peach trees remained on that landscape. So it's possible that that particular family decides to abandon their small-scale farm. They might decide to sell it to some kind of a hotel operator, or they become hotel operators themselves, in which case again those plants may survive if they decide to keep them, and they remain part of your natural landscape. But it could also happen that some person might come and cut them down and decide that they're going to build it, build something else. The point here is that human beings' engagement with their natural environment is a continuous process. Unless, of course, you live in, you've been living in a big city for a very long time and you're completely removed from this. As long as places retain their rural character, the human engagement with the natural environment is a continuous process through which they're producing value, both value in the sense of cultural value as well as economic value. So they can't not engage. The closer the link, the more is the tending quality of it. The further you are from it, and I think the more the extractive quality. So human beings both extract and tend to their environment. By tending and managing, they produce particular forms of environment. But by extracting, I guess by extracting, they they create the means to situate themselves further and further outside of it. And from a very narrow perspective, then the environment becomes something that they can transform completely for creating a large amount of value. So, tourists consuming a lot of water, having many showers, consuming and then throwing their wastes and in the mountains, and merely consuming the natural environment as though these are just places to take pictures, are not necessarily so good for the environment. Which doesn't mean that people should not visit the mountains, but perhaps when they visit the mountains, they should also learn to experience some of the hardships of what it means to live in the mountain. Have a more tending relationship, more empathetic relationship, and not so much of a distanced relationship. Because the more distanced you are, the more extractive you're going to be, the less you will care about how you are changing it in irreversible ways. So I think a lot of use of a lot of concrete, and it's not that people from the outside only do it. People who are local people also want to transform their lives and make it more and more comfortable. And sometimes that creates very unsustainable lives, because mountains cannot handle so much distance. Because at the end of the day, your home or your hotel or wherever is on the Himalayas. And we know that the Himalayas are a very young mountain, and they're very capricious. They might decide to break up, or they might decide to produce a lot of rain that will wash away your home. And so if you don't have a empathetic relationship with the landscape and be moderate in your expectations of comfort, the mountains have a way of demonstrating that changing your natural environment too much and removing yourself too much from it has consequences. One raspberry bush here. It's growing here. Can you see? How do I know it's the raspberry bush? Here's a fruit. It's a little dry, but this is the raspberry bush, wild raspberry. Golden Himalayan raspberry. Now, where is this growing? This is through this. Here's the panmo plant, this one. It's got very sharp thorns. This. And the second one. And then I'm looking for new growths. Not being able to see any here. Here's a new growth. Which means the suckers are spreading through the walls and giving rise to new little plants. Okay, so we're not exactly sure what fire. How did it catch fire? It's a young oak tree. Got hurt. All the bark is coming out. It's all burnt. So for us, the heat is a problem. Even though we live in a hot part of the world, heat is a problem because we see ourselves progressing into maybe civilizationally in a cooler place. I don't know if it is colonialism or, it's our idea of modernization and lives becoming more comfortable. Lives becoming more comfortable had meant that you first move from farms to cities and from farming to industries and from working all the time to being able to have some leisure, and because of which our ideas of comfort have also changed, And one of the ways in which you are going to be more comfortable is that you don't want to feel so hot and uncomfortable so much. Now, this ruling idea that progress and improvement, modernization, and so on, and your own personal success means that you must have more comfortable lives, coincides with certain ideas of what are the most comfortable places in the world. And for many people, these are the the Western societies, Western Europe, North America, the cooler parts of the world, not sub-Saharan Africa, or not the Okavango Delta. It's the it's Switzerland. That's your idea of comfort. Now, if that's your idea of comfort, then you would measure your success, your personal and societal success, in terms of how cool, not cool in that, not cool in the metaphorical sense, how cool in the real sense you're going to be. But unfortunately, this aspiration is coinciding with the time when the planet is most probably warming up. It's not actually cooling down.